Good evening, good morning, ladies and gentlemen across the nation, around the world, wherever you might be right now. This is the NECA King, and you are in the halls of the NECA King. And tonight we are talking about the queen of country music, Kitty Wells. Now, who the fuck is Kitty Wells? You're probably wondering. She was the first female country music superstar. First woman to have a number one hit with a country music song, and broke barriers in Nashville. Got kicked off the Grand Ole Opry, I think a couple of times, and not for like showing her tits, for like singing about divorce and shit. Which, you know, hey, listen, no fault divorce was a mistake, but hey, this lady, she brought it upon everybody, so I kind of have mixed feelings about it now. But no, how did I get into Kitty Wells? So the first experience that I had with Kitty Wells was on the Devil's Rejects soundtrack. I went to see the Devil's Rejects in the theater with my friends, and I was blown away by the soundtrack. I went out the next day and bought it, and one of the songs that was on it was It Wasn't God Who Made Honky Tonk Angels by Kitty Wells, which was her big hit, and we'll go over her career a little bit in a minute. But you know, so I had that song in kind of my repertoire, in my like throwaway country music repertoire, and I had this vision of Kitty Wells in my head as kind of like a blonde-haired Dolly Parton type, you know what I mean? Like, or even a Tanya Tucker, or just like a blonde, you know, dirty blonde in a cowboy hat. And it couldn't have been further from the truth, but I didn't know, because the only song that I'd ever heard was It Wasn't God Who Made Honky Tonk Angels on the Devil's Rejects soundtrack. And then when I lived in Boston, I was doing music. As you can see, that's one of my CDs over there. And that's my tribute to Kitty Wells right there. We'll talk about that more in a minute. I was putting together like a musical, and it was... I won't go too deep into the details of it because I don't want to make this a 20-minute video like the Black Sabbath one. But basically, I was basing the characters of the musical off of musicians from like all over time and space. And I wanted to make one of the characters based on Kitty Wells. But I realized that I didn't know her well enough. Like, I didn't know Kitty Wells outside of It Wasn't God Who Made Honky Tonk Angels. So I looked into her. And I don't know what order I heard these fucking songs in, but this woman blew me away with her voice. And it was mostly her voice, because quite frankly, her music is pretty generic, 1950s, 1960s Nashville kind of stuff. By the time the 70s rolled around, her career was completely over. I mean, the queen of country music, long forgotten, you know what I mean? And it's a total shame, because she was a powerhouse of a vocalist. And it's funny because she was about ready to give up on her musical career when she was singing gospel songs, and then she got commissioned to sing this song, Honky Tonk Angels, which she didn't want to sing because it was, it implied that the man was wrong in a relationship, which was not legal to do in country music at that time. So she basically did it to get a union fee. She did it to make her last paycheck as a musician, and then she was going to go home and be a housewife. And which, by the way, I have the Kitty Wells cookbook. I don't have it down here because I couldn't find it, but I'll try to talk more about the Kitty Wells cookbook in a minute. So her husband was a musician, and they were both kind of struggling, and kind of overnight, this song, It Wasn't God Who Made Honky Tonk Angels, became a hit. And once the content of the song was heard by the mainstream, she got banned by the Grand Ole Opry. And this is a nobody. This lady's a fucking nobody. You know what I mean? And it skyrocketed her into success. So that was her first hit in a string of hits. And then she had a string of hits with Red Foley, this other country singer. And then she had a Christmas album and a gospel album and, you know, a cookbook and the family souvenir album right here. I've got, you know, it's like a collection of her, you know, pictures from her whole career from when she was young. And, you know, she was like very pretty in a different kind of way. But look, I got so many, like this one's signed right here, Sincerely Kitty Wells, and it's signed by these guys on the back. That's oh god, I can't remember these guys' names. But you can't read their signatures either because they're so fucked up. But like I have her signature there, Sincerely Kitty Wells. I've got this over here is all, you know, signed. So anyway, she became a superstar, and people were getting her signature. You know what I mean? And now you can get her signature on. I mean, I've had that signature on eBay for like $10 for months. Nobody's ever going to buy it. That record right there is signed by Kitty Wells, and Red Foley. I could probably put it up for fucking $10, and it'll sit there for months. You know what I mean? Like, this person has been completely lost to time. And she ended up being a cornerstone of my musical influence, so much so that, especially once I found out that my grandmother loved her, I ended up recording an 8-song album of just all covers, like note-for-note covers, which, as you can see, the cover art is made to match Dust on the Bible. But let's go through a couple of her records here and maybe talk a little bit more about her career. So, of course, you can see, you know, we got the Christmas album over here, we got After Dark, and, you know, Queen of Honky Tonk Street, the Kitty Wells story up there. These are just things for all over her career. The After Dark is actually what I'm holding the After Dark record here. Let's get rid of this signature. So you can see I got 4 copies of Dust on the Bible. I've got the 45 version. I have got an LP version signed by Kitty Wells. I've got another LP version. I think this is like the actual original pressing. Not signed by Kitty Wells, but signed by Larry W. Lundberg, who owned this album at some point, and then a third. I've got 4 copies of this album. One of them's autographed. One of them's a 45. And so I made she's holding a dusty Bible with her hand kind of out, imploring you to come read the dusty Bible. And I'm holding a dusty Kitty Wells record with my hand out, like imploring you to listen to this Kitty Wells record. And it's set up like a record, side 1 and side 2. Side 1 is love songs and side 2 is gospel songs. So she has all kinds of albums that have spanned her history. So some of these I haven't even really listened to, because I had this like MP3 collection of hers that was like 90 or 100 songs or something, and I would just put it on while I worked. This one's called Gospel Sing, the Kitty Wells Family. This one I've literally never listened to. You know, I went through this phase where, I mean, because you could get her records on eBay for a couple of bucks. I got a couple of copies of this one too. And, you know, so I have records all throughout her career. And if you can imagine, I only have like half of her collection. I think I just counted them and I have almost 20, I think. And it's less than half of her collection. If you include all of the greatest hits albums and all of the, you know, like this, one of these albums, I forget which one it is a re-recording album. She took like all of her hits and re-recorded them. And this is, we're getting into like the classic ones. These are the really classic ones. After Dark, Heartbreak USA. This one over here, Kitty Wells and Red Foley. Big time album for her. And she had a career that spanned almost like 20 years, but she really pittered out. You know, a lot of this 1950s style country pittered out in the late 60s, early 70s, because the outlaw country shit was coming. And, you know, first of all, by that time, Kitty Wells was no longer her like young, beautiful self. She, you know, kind of looked like an older lady, and she's trying to put up with fucking Loretta Lynn and Dolly Parton and stuff and getting blown out of the water. I actually even have a colored LP or 45. I bet Kitty Wells used the word colored a few times in her life, not to refer to records though. It's rare to get a country music artist of this era in some kind of colored pressing like that, but this is a jukebox record. It says it right on there, Jukebox Classic Series. I think this is the kind of thing that would be published specifically to be in a jukebox. And this is the Country Hit Parade. This was her hit album that had all her, you know, all the singles that she released in the first like year of her career. Oh, a second. God damn it, did it stop recording? Did it fucking stop recording? I guess I'll find out in the editing process. All of the songs that she got in like the first year or two were compiled on this, the Country Hit Parade. Make and Believe. There's Poison in Your Heart. What are the other ones? It Was a God That Made Holy Tonk Angels, obviously. Searching for a Soldier's Grave. I'm Too Lonely to Smile. I Don't Claim to Be an Angel. These were all like massive hits for her. And so that was compiled onto this. And I'm not sure if she ever like experienced a something greater than that. Maybe her time, like, with Red Foley and stuff, but I never really looked at her chart success past that first era. But I know that she was a smash hit, like hit after hit for over a decade. And then in that second decade of her career kind of started to wane. She was like traveling around with her husband, and you know, they had their own tour bus. In fact, that tour bus was parked in their driveway until she died. I know that because it was on Google Maps. I became really obsessed with this woman, and when I recorded this album, it was kind of for me, kind of for my grandmother, and I kind of wanted Kitty Wells to hear it too. And when I got the CDs back, I kind of slept on sending her a copy. And 2 weeks after I got the CDs back, she died. She died at, I think, the age of 93. And always one of the biggest regrets of my life is not, and I had her address. I knew it was her address, and I could have just fucking sent this to her like the day that I got them. And I didn't. I like slept on it. And then, you know, I kept saying, oh, I'll get it in the mail. I'll get it in the mail. And then a couple weeks later, she died. I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Like, I wanted her to hear this shit. I wanted her to see this. I wanted her to see my, like, total tribute to her in the way that I put this all together. There's like a ghost of her in here with her signature, and literally I set it up to be a record like these were. It says, if you've enjoyed this recording, you'll sure enjoy these other long play albums. And it's got Kitty Wells albums over here. You know, like I just set it up, and I even stole this blurb. Like this blurb that's on the back is made from several blurbs that come from her albums. So I was just like obsessed with this woman for a couple years, and I made my CD of her, and I started this little country band, the Coal Rock Mountaintop, which like had a few rocky shows in Boston. Boston did not receive 1950s country music as well as I thought it would. We didn't have enough mustache twirling. We didn't have enough like twangy. This was the time of like Wagon Wheel, and I can't remember that other band. Really fucked it up this time. Didn't I, my dare? So you had to be like a twangy faggot doing country music at the time. And I went up there and started singing like Merle Haggard and shit, and people were like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? But anyway, ahead of my time as usual. So my time in Boston ended like at the same time that my desire to do anything more with country music ended. I moved to New Mexico, I think the year after that was released, and I put on one last country concert, which actually turned out really good. There's a recording of it on a SoundCloud somewhere, and I played some Kitty Wells songs. I played a bunch of other country songs too, but basically my journey with Kitty was, you know, I was blown away by her voice. You can't replicate a voice like that. So that's it, basically. I mean, it was her voice, and it was her kind of style. It was very hokey and very hayseed and very Christian, unabashedly. And I hadn't really had much experience with that kind of stuff in anything that I deeply enjoyed before. And so that's how I came to Kitty. And, you know, I wish I could have gotten her recipe book out here. I could not find it for the life of me, because it has, you know, something called the next best thing to Robert Redford, which is basically like a fucking chocolate cream pudding pie kind of thing. And there's like a lot of recipes with 7-Up in them, and like it's got that total post-war like canned goods, like 7 different canned goods put together, ambrosia salad kind of shit. You'd think it'd be like deep fried, you know, country chicken or something, but it was like, no, put 7-Up in your bread. That was basically the Kitty Wells cookbook. But anyway, maybe I'll do a special episode of the NECA King when I find the Kitty Wells cookbook. I'll do an unboxing of it for you guys. But thank you very much for stopping by and learning a little country music history lesson. New shelf, new shelf, new shelf, new shelf. And I will talk to you guys on the next episode of the NECA King, doing a couple new unboxings. It is the Summer Sizzler, folks. Next week, a couple of unexpected unboxings, new in the halls of the NECA King. Then, of course, Tariq Nasheed and Robin Leach are going to host $1,000 Shelf on Juneteenth. So take it easy, guys, and thank you for stopping by in the halls of the NECA King. Howdy, y'all. Bye-bye. Have some 7-Up bread.